What's up, guys? One of the most important things that does not get talked about enough is proof of funds. In
Mm.
this video, we're going to talk about the importance of having proof of funds when trying to purchase a property. Guys, my name is Wilmot Berry with the Berry Group, broker by eXp Realty. Here we go with another Teach Me Tuesday. I have my team up here above me. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Yep. So LaShawn Abraham, I am half of our Team Abraham duo that we have here in Summerville, South Carolina. I am the sales manager and I'm a producing loan officer. I'm here to help serve you with all of your mortgage lending needs.
Yep. Gavin Abraham, other half of the team. Well, the other part of the half, third. You know how it
Yeah,
is.
we're not a half anymore. I forgot we're a third.
Yeah, we're
We're a
growing.
trio.
It's a good thing. We got more people to help you with your loan needs. So, guys, we're Gavin Abraham, Team Abraham, Somerville, South Carolina, surrounding Charleston area, all over South Carolina. Happy to help. Happy to be on Teach Me Tuesday to just give back, answer some questions, drop some jewels and some knowledge on about everything talking about mortgage. But today, like Wilmot said, we're talking specifically about proof of funds. So I'm excited about this topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good topic because it comes up so much. I don't think people truly understand the impact of proof of funds because it can truly, make or break whether you buy that house or not. Being able to prove, being able to source, where this money's coming from, how you create, the assets or income that you're using for the transaction. It can truly, it can truly change whether, like I said, you buy the house or not. So, guys, let's get into it. Let's talk about proof of funds. So, first of all, I guess, Gavin, how would you define the term proof of funds? What does that really mean? If you're trying to buy a house and they're like, I want to show proof of funds, does that just mean show me what? What do you got to show?
Hey, show me the money. That's simply said, man. It's almost everybody's familiar with the saying, "Put your money where your mouth is." If you
Mm.
gonna tell me you wanna buy this house and you got this amount of money to do so, or you have X amount of dollars to go towards your down payment, uh, or you saying that I got enough money I can pay my own closing costs, or of course I can put up whatever earnest money, and we'll mind to speak to that to show you that I'm serious with taking your house off the market and going under contract to purchase it. Well, I need proof of that. You saying that is as much as air in the wind, you know.
Mm.
Mm, that's a good one. So I heard a couple categories. I guess we can kind of unpack that. So you said earnest money. We got to show proof of funds for that. You said
Mm.
closing costs. We got to show proof of funds for that. And then you
Down
said
payment.
down payment. You got to show
Mm.
proof of funds for that. Was it we miss anything?
Well, in our world, reserves, you got to show
Yeah,
proof
okay.
of funds
So
for
we can
that.
talk about that one as well. All right. So earnest money, Mr. Berry. Why? Okay, first of all, tell the people what is earnest money and why does people have to put down earnest money or can they opt not to? I guess let's
And
let's
who
start
is
there.
Ernest? No, I'm joking.
Well, well, there's a couple different definitions out there, but just for our audience, it's to show good faith that you're serious about this property. Okay, this is showing the seller, hey, I'm willing to put this down in a separate escrow account. Hopefully, now some people want the earnest money. Some sellers do want the earnest money coming to them. That's another topic.
Mm.
Yeah, that's another
I didn't know you could do
situation.
that. I thought because I always wondered, like, because I've seen sometime where the attorney holds it or the real estate company holds it or yeah. So that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, since I brought that up, I opened that can of worms. Well, uh, I've seen a builder request that they hold the earnest money.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, they requested that, and I think when we went through this pandemic, a lot of times what happened was uh, houses were in such high demand. So
Hmm.
people, the sellers were like kind of calling their own shots. I truly think that's when that truly developed. Not all builders do this, but I have seen it where the builder did request the earnest money from the
Okay.
buyer. Now, if the buyer, let me say this to the buyer, because a lot of buyers don't know this. If you're not okay with that, you don't have to do it. However, just understand that that seller has to agree to it as well. Okay.
Okay.
Um, I can go. I've had buyers tell me they've put down a tremendous amount of earnest money for a property where I would never advise to put that type of earnest money down on a property.
You mean like
But
what, 3% or more than that?
no, I've seen higher than that. When that's not necessarily required. Okay.
Okay.
So, and I want people to know about this as well, guys. When it comes to earnest money, when let's say you got a house under contract or made it pending, understand that both parties have to agree to release that earnest money back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
Mm.
not, hey, I don't want the house, give me my earnest money back. No, it don't work that way. It has to be what we call a release from both sides, an agreement to allow you to have that earnest money back. So be careful. Really, really ask your realtor, your expert, what would be suitable as far as earnest money. Uh Earnest money is just a whole topic by itself. Like I can talk about that for a while,
But
but
that's a good point because honestly,
Yeah.
I learned something. I didn't know that. I thought it was like automatic that if for some reason per contract, if things didn't work out, people automatically got their money back if they put it down. But I guess that's not necessarily the case. So you taught me something.
depends on the contract, how the contract is written. You know,
Mhm.
now, you know, if the contract is contingent upon financing, you know, um, if financing fell through,
Okay.
a lot of times seller can release earnest money, no problem, no issues. If
Okay.
it's something else, especially if it's after due diligence period,
Mhm.
it's questionable at that point. All
Okay.
right. If it's not due to financing, okay. If you can't get an agreement, let's say it's appraisal. All right. So, and like I said, we can go into a whole nother spill on that, guys.
Okay, well maybe we can save that
Yeah,
conversation. We can save this for another Teach Me Tuesday where we talk about
absolutely.
earnest money and just the logistics of the contract, what you can and can't do, and when and if then. I think that's a perfect topic to talk about as well. But
Absolutely.
on the subject of earnest money, where we was going with this is that proof of funds part, right? So when it
Mhm.
comes to proof of funds, when it comes to earnest money, um, like does a person have to, I guess Gavin, you can answer this too, and I guess Wilmot,
Mhm.
you can answer. So one, can a person pay in cash? Because I've seen people do that, put their earnest money down in cash, even though I've seen builders or the attorney may receive the money that way, or a money order per se, but on the loan side, that becomes a problem. So have you seen when people want to pay their earnest money in cash? Wilmot?
Yeah. Majority, if it's a cash deal,
Okay, if
if it's a
it's a
cash
cash deal.
deal, I recently had one situated like that where um the guy brought his earnest money to the attorney, and I when I see stuff like that, I don't normally touch earnest money. Really, if we are giving earnest money, we have a certain time frame where we have to turn that earnest money in if it's from the
Mhm.
seller. One of the things that I like about one of the attorneys we use, they have an online payment situation
Mhm.
where, or they have an app where you can do like a mobile deposit. I like things like that. That way, money isn't in my hands and it gets lost somewhere. You know, I don't want those problems. So, like, there's a lot of different ways now you can pay your earnest money. Um, but I know for you guys,
Mhm.
y'all have to have a paper trail of that earnest money when it, dealing with the
Mhm.
loan side. Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's the answer to the question. Yeah. Can people use cash for their earnest money? Absolutely. If you want to. However, when it
Give a
comes to
disclaimer. People can use cash for their earnest money if
yeah,
they're buying a house with cash.
yeah, or that well, technically they can still use cash for their earnest money. So guys, with earnest money, like you said, it's a good faith. It actually goes. It can be applied towards your loan.
Okay, I see where you're
If
going with that.
it's
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
So if you when you go in the contract, you pay your earnest money as good faith to say that you're serious about buying this home. That earnest money can be applied to your down payment and or closing costs for the for your loan. However, in order for us to be able to apply that to your loan, we have to be able to document that that money came from your your own assets. It wasn't something that your cousin slid you $1,000 and like, yeah, you go ahead and use this, pay me back later. No, it has to be your actual funds, and if you can't source those funds, then it still worked for you in the sense of you were able to use it as earnest money, but you won't get credit back for it on your loan. So it won't be a credit towards paying down, your down payment or paying down your closing costs.
So thank you for explaining that, because that's a really good point. So basically, what you said was that you can use cash for earnest money. However, from the loan side of it, we cannot give you credit for that money to use to reduce
Mm.
your down payment or closing costs if we can't source it or truly verify where that money came from. So what happens to the money?
Good question. So, so what I mean, when it comes to earnest money, now can it be again? It won't apply to the loan, but it's in an escrow account where it can still be released. So if
Mhm.
Correct.
if the terms of the pretty much the earnest money have been satisfied, then I guess both parties agree that the earnest money can be released back to the buyer.
Mhm.
Now, in
Mhm.
the case that it doesn't, then whoever the seller may get it, or there's situations to where the agent split it, because of certain things that happen. But ultimately, if everything goes as planned, the buyer would still get that back, and just won't get it in the form of a credit
Like a credit.
to their closing costs or down payment.
Yeah.
Well,
And I'm
good.
gonna say this too. I had a situation, and I just love to be transparent with my clients, when it comes to this kind of stuff. When it comes to their money, I want to let them know all the risk involved. Okay. Just like I said, it has to be agreed upon on both sides by the seller and by the buyer for the earnest money to be released in a certain way, or it stays in the escrow account.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I had a situation where when I was explaining this to a buyer, and they were like, "What? So you telling me I might not get my earnest money back?" I said, "Yeah, you might not get it back." You know what I'm saying?
Hey, you see the head bobbing?
And I was like, and I told her, I said, under certain circumstance, I said, majority of the time you will, if you if you cancel the deal before due diligence is over or whatever, but it has to be agreed upon. It has to be agreed upon
Mm-hmm.
on both sides. Okay. That's the stipulation. Okay. Now in certain contracts, it's written up in the contract about earnest money, but the state contract does not specifically talk about releasing of earnest money. Okay. Now, Columbia has a certain contract. You can talk to those Columbia agents like to use that contract, and I think it might talk about earnest money in there. But just be aware. Ask your agent, hey, what does my contract say about the release of my earnest money? How does that work? And so you understand how that works, and making sure you put down, the earnest money, that you don't have to put down a boatload of money, okay, for your earnest money. I've seen clients put down, and this is Orangeburg now. I've seen clients put down as little as $500 down,
Okay.
$1,000 down.
All
Now,
right.
some builders may require a certain percentage. Even with them, I would challenge that on-site agent to say, hey, my client might not have 3.5, 3%. Can my client put down 1.5 and see what they say? Okay.
Yeah,
But it
I
may,
have seen that before where
Yeah.
they have like the builder kind of like works with you, where they
yeah,
don't have to put they can pay it in like increments, or they may put down something lower. So that's a very good
Absolutely.
point.
Absolutely.
Very
Yeah.
good
So
point. So let's
mm,
shift a little bit. I know. So we did a lot of talking on earnest money. So proof of funds for that. We talked about that. But let's get into down payment, because I think that's a big one. And I think there's a lot of time with down payment, I think it gets kind of misunderstood in regards to, having to prove that you have the money for down payment, or what's considered a valid source to prove that you have the money for down payment. So
mhm.
I think that's a good way to kind of shift this conversation, because a lot of times when it comes to the down payment, what I've seen sometimes, let's say if a person's getting a gift, right?
mm,
That money still has to be proved. I mean, we still have to prove that whoever this donor is that's giving you this money, one, has the money to give to you, and then two, where did they get it from? And so a lot of times there's a lot of, I don't want to call it tension, but there's a lot of confusion sometimes around the down payment, especially when it's being gifted. So, Gavin, did you want to talk on that? Like, why is it important to make sure that we can, show proof of funds when it comes to the down payment if they're getting that money like in the form of a gift?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, so with you bringing up a gift, so let's also be reminded of where these gifts can come from.
Okay, there you
So
go.
for majority of loan programs, a gift just can't be technically
Your
gifted
friend.
from a friend or someone off the street. They want it to the guidelines state that it needs to be a relative, needs to be an employer. So
Mhm.
your employer can give you a
Or
gift.
like a spouse or direct or
Oh yeah,
domestic partner.
yeah, or your spouse or domestic partner, correct? Um, and of course, as LaShawn stated, when the donor is agreeing to give this gift, they're also agreeing that, hey, I'm gonna prove to you also that I had this money to give,
mm-hmm.
and that's how we go about sourcing. So that they're, because again, guys, it's all about documentation. A lender, what we're doing, we're making sure that there's, of course, there's no fraudulent activity being committed, because we
Hmm.
just have to. We're required by law to make sure that we're not um, opening, allowing fraudulent activity, or being
Correct. Because
negative to it.
think about it, because we're putting our lien on that property, right?
Mhm.
And what happens, I think that the thing that people don't understand, because I get asked this question so many times, especially from parents and grandparents and uncles who like, I'm not buying the house. Like, why you got to know where my
Oh
money
yeah.
came from? It's my kid or my whoever they're gifting the money to that's buying the house. Why do I got to prove where this money came from? And so when I have these conversations, I tell them is that, as a lender, right, we're putting a lien against that house, saying that until this loan is paid back, we can take this property. That's how houses get foreclosed on. And so when someone contributes money towards a transaction, they have an interest in the property now. And so we have to make sure that this person doesn't try to come back and say, well, I provided a gift of X amount of dollars towards the purchase of this transaction. And so I want to be a 16th of an owner of this property too, because people can
Mm,
do that. So that's why we make them sign something called a
A
gift
gift wrap.
affidavit that
mm-hmm.
says that hold harmless, like you're giving this money pretty much with no strings attached. And we have to truly source where the money came from, and that person can't just, transfer cash around from one party to the other to dump on a transaction and say, long as he has the money or long as she has the money, we should be good to go. And so it doesn't work that way. I mean, you truly have to be able to um, provide proof of where that money came from. We have to follow the trail of the money.
Yeah. So just to be clear on that for the people out there, when they say proof, they need a bank statement
That's
Correct.
right.
from
Documentation.
the gifter. From the
Yeah,
gifter.
yeah, from
Yes.
the donor.
Yeah, because I get it. I have that scenario happen pretty often where like, well, I gotta get a gift from such and such. It's like, okay, are they a relative? It's like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, just know that they're gonna have to supply a bank statement showing the money leaving their account
Mhm.
and and you're gonna have to supply a bank statement showing the money going into your account.
That's right.
So, and they were like, what I gotta do all that, and then a lot of times the gifter isn't comfortable
Correct.
printing that bank statement, like, why y'all in my business? Well,
Yeah.
well, since you gave the gift, we just got to make sure it's from you,
Yeah.
so like I've had all kind of scenarios. People say, well, what if they gave it to me cash? It's like, nah, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. That dog ain't gonna hunt right there. So but I have to tell people that because like you said, you want to make sure nothing fraudulent is going on. And not saying people are trying to be fraudulent, but there have been some bad apples, so because of that, they have to cover themselves with the paperwork and the paper trail, and that's needed in order for you to get the loan. So
right. Now I would give the small little disclaimer because every loan type has a little bit of different rules when it comes to gift funds, right? Typically where the donor have to provide a copy of their bank statement and source everything, you really see that a lot of times in government loans, which are like FHA, USDA, VA. Now, if you have the credit and you're putting down enough money and you can qualify for a conventional loan, then honestly, it's not required for conventional financing. It's only required for mostly government loans or either loans that are getting down payment assistance and things like that. That's so good. Sometimes, we may shift if a person truly can't, or not comfortable providing the documentation, then we can look at a different loan type. But I just wanted to put that disclaimer in there. That's a whole nother topic too, the difference between the loan types. But typically for the purpose of this, video and what we're doing, what we're recording right now, we're mainly referring to government loans, which is heavily on FHA. And majority of the clients we serve get FHA financing because it's a lot more favorable for first-time home buyers. And so the purpose of us, truly, putting this topic out here today is because it's a very, it's a very highly asked questions on, why or how do we show proof of funds? And so we want to make sure that people understand, like what the repercussions can be if we can't show proof of funds, right? Because I mean, the ultimate repercussion is typically you can't buy the house. If you can't prove that, you have the money, where the money came from, the loan can't get approved. But it also can cause significant delays. It can cause a lot of delays when either we have to push the closing date out because we got to ask for an extension so we can do something called seizing your money because we can't prove it, or
now because we got one now, where we had to, and we knew this going, and the good thing about it is we knew this going up front that in order for a certain approval, money needs to be seasoned, and what that means is that it has to be sitting in your bank account for at least a billing period. And it can't be. Oh, go ahead, Wilmot.
No, I just want to say this is why I use these guys right here. For those of you that's out there watching, you have to have, I can't tell you how important it is for you to have a good lender when buying a house. Okay. You need a good realtor, you need a good lender, you need a good attorney. 3 things right there you need in order to make sure your transaction goes smoothly and hopefully seamlessly. Okay. But if your lender can find that up front, you got a good one. Because you don't want to be sitting in this deal and wondering why can't we close? And this wasn't talked about up front. Because this was talked about up front, we were able to set a longer than normal closing day to put everybody's expectations where they needed to be.
Right.
So that there's no frustration through the process.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? So I just think that what Gavin is saying is so good, so important, because they were able to sift that out up front with the pre-approval so that they know wherever house they buy, this has to be done if we're going to move on one quickly.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what came to mind when you were saying those, and you kind of like emphasize, you put emphasis on expectation and frustration, and then the third one, because it impacts our reputation. You know what I mean? Because if
Yeah.
you don't set the proper expectations, then people do get frustrated, and then it's our reputation on the line with that realtor or that lender didn't do or didn't tell me or whatever. And then, it just messes up the whole process and the whole experience. So I'm so glad that you said that, because I think that is
Absolutely.
so vital.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So lastly, let's give the people some tips to avoid falling into these pitfalls on, in the future when people are ready to buy a house, they're planning to buy a house. We know we're still in the first quarter of the year, and people want, they have the dreams or the goals of home ownership for the future. What can a person do to kind of help start that process, to make themselves prepared? Let's talk about some tips we can give them to avoid the pitfalls and kind of streamline this process.
Yeah, I mean, guys, you got to go ahead and start gathering your financial documentation together. That includes, bank statements, that includes investment accounts, anything that if you have 401k IRA, go ahead and gather those documents. And typically we need, proof of at least 2 months of documentation to show, banking statements or billing statements for those accounts. So start working on that first, because what that does, that also gives you an understanding of you need also gain an understanding of the accessibility to those funds. If you know that you're going to be using money from your 401k or from an IRA or from an investment account, well, you need to know the terms of withdrawal for those accounts. Like, how fast can you get that money? When do you need to request that money? How are they going to disperse it? Because not everyone, some companies out there still haven't gotten with the times, and they still want to send you a check in the mail.
We actually had that scenario before. A person was getting money out of their 401k to use towards their down payment, which is a legitimate source. They can provide, documentation and prove it, but they didn't do the extra step to kind of verify the accessibility of the funds. And so when they waited until like a week or two before closing to request the money out of their 401k, and then it ended up taking weeks to get the funds because they stuck the check in the mail.
Right.
And then when she got the check, she went to have to deposit into the bank. Then the bank placed a hold on it because it was a large amount. So then that delayed closing. And so doing these things up front, knowing, and gathering your information will help you guys avoid delays, or just avoid, being frustrated in the process.
Absolutely.
And we're going to add one, Wilmot.
Well, I'm gonna say this from the real estate side, guys. As a listing agent, when I list and sell properties, proof of funds is so important. Why? It's because if I'm representing the seller and you're coming with your offer, and let's say it's cash or whatever, you're putting out a big down payment, I'm going to request to see that pre-approval, and I'm also going to request to see the proof of funds to protect my seller, to make sure that, hey, you're not pulling my leg. For sale by owners out there, this is a quick tip for you. If you're trying to sell your property, you want to make sure you request those docs up front, so you don't have anybody like taking your house off the market for unnecessary time frame if they're really not serious and haven't taken the proper steps in order to get qualified to purchase that particular home.
Right.
So
that's good. And honestly, I thought about something. I don't know if you remember this, but I remember this because I just have a great memory of it. Our first interaction of kind of being like, I know Gavin knew you from childhood, but like my first interaction with you was that you were representing a seller. We had the buyer, and you picked up the phone and you called the lender to verify that, hey, I want to make sure that these people are good. I want to make sure that these people are solid. Can you give me some information? Have you, verified, their income, their assets, their credit, or whatever. So just likewise, as you work with us as great lenders, we work with great real estate professionals like yourself who do go the extra mile, who, you know, do your due diligence to make sure that you're not just accepting an offer from anybody. You know what I mean? You're accepting an offer from a client that has truly been vetted.
Absolutely. Like that's a part of our job as a listing agent to make sure that, you know, like I've seen it. People give these, you know, pre-qualifications and they say, hey, go find a house. And then like we get into it. I'd rather do that up front for my owners and vet them and say, hey, have all the documents been, you got all their financials, how strong do they look, can we close in this time frame? How confident are you? And I'm just asking those questions to the lender. And it's also good when I see a lender that I've dealt with before. And I know that typically if they say they're good, they're good. That's good. That's a good thing to have. If you're a buyer, make sure you go with a reputable lender. I said it again, go with a reputable lender that has proven themselves amongst, in the real estate industry. So yeah.
I love it. I love that. And last but not least, the other little tip that I would give people, which I think is so vital in this process, is be transparent and responsive, with your realtor, with your lender, because this right here will help you avoid, the delays, the frustration, what you're going through. Because at the end of the day, we collect so much documentation, and we collect so much documentation for lots of reasons, you know what I mean? And so you can't hide anything from your lender because of all the verifications that we do, because, of the crash of the market back in 08, 09, the government has put so many guidelines in place to help try to catch mortgage fraud, to catch misrepresentation of income and things like that. And so tell us if you owe money to the IRS. Tell us if you don't have the money. Tell us if this money is coming from somewhere else or you're waiting to save it. Tell us up front so that we can better prepare, your approval. We can help guide you and advise you on what the next steps are, so that this experience won't be, a frustrating experience. And then lastly, be responsive, right? If we ask you for something, if we're trying to reach you, like, be available. If you're trying to buy a house, just don't go and get ghost out the blue. So that's my
I know the feeling. Before we get off, I just want to say, hey, it's February, and we would be remiss if we did not talk about Black history. There are some people that have blazed the trail before us, that have paved the way for us to be homeowners. To get loans from the bank, we didn't always have this privilege, because it really is a privilege to do this. It's all right, and I just want to shine light on that, guys. Don't take this for granted. There was our great grandfathers and great grandmothers or whatever, probably couldn't do. Matter of fact, they couldn't do what we're able to do today. And because of certain people that came through and created Black history, made it available to us. So I just want to shine light on that today.
Yeah, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you for shining, guys. So this is our time. We thank you guys for tuning in today. And once again, if you guys are ever in the need of, a great realtor, Mr. Wilmot Berry, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on social media: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Yeah, a little bit, I'm just gonna be honest with you, but I'm gonna give you my phone number and also email. But you can message me here on Facebook. Just message me here on Facebook. But you can find me on YouTube at the Berry Group, brokered by eXp Realty, and also Facebook Wilmot Berry, or you can go on my Facebook business page where you can find me with the Berry Group, brokered by eXp Realty as well. So
thank you. And Mr. Abraham, if anyone is ever in need of some great lending services in the state of South Carolina or the state of Georgia, where can they find us?
They can find us at your local Walmart. Nah, nah, definitely, guys. You can find us on Facebook, Gavin Abraham, LaShawn Abraham. We also have Instagram and LinkedIn, YouTube,
TikTok, YouTube. I haven't got to Twitter, or I don't know if there's anything else outside of that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't ventured that far.
but
yeah,
but
you
if
can
you,
definitely do the same thing. Message us on Facebook,
yep.
email, phone call. So yeah. All right. Well, until next time, until next week, we will talk with you guys later.
Awesome.